Does the Prince Harry visa court transcript already confirm that he's breaking visa law whilst he's living and breathing in Montecito right now? I've got DC lawyer John Witherspoon to break this all down. Hey up everyone, it's me, Stef, the Alternerd, your nerdy alternative, and welcome to another dose of the Daily Nerd, where I break down the royal news and gossip of the day that's pretty much caught me eye. And oh my goodness, yes, I've got the rockstar lawyer back from DC, John Witherspoon, in the house. Thank you so much for joining us again for this particular video, part 4 really at this point, of the released visa court transcript, the fight for Prince Harry's visa application between the Heritage Foundation and the Department of Homeland Security. Now, in this portion of the court transcript, is it showing that Hazard's already breaking visa law? So we're on page 48 here for all those that have got a copy and want to follow along with that. And so they're talking about a hypothetical kind of situation here. If Hazard has a diplomatic visa, Mr. Dewey says, look, would it be an affront? Would it be actually bad to use that to enter? Because he wasn't actually entering the US for diplomatic purposes. Explaining at the time of January the 18th, he is at the Sandringham Summit. The Queen takes him back. He don't have any official duties at that point. In February, security is pulled. And so he says, look, we would say to the court that it'd be extraordinary, anomalous for Her Majesty's government to withdraw official security, yet permit someone to enter as a diplomat or as a government official on a government mission. In other words, why would the US government grant Prince Hazard a diplomatic visa if his official security is being withdrawn and he has no official duties at that point? But there's a bigger red flag here, because the way that then Mr. Dewey explains is, look, no one should be on a diplomatic visa and be able to work in the US at the same time. To be on a diplomatic visa, you're not allowed to work. Okay. The problem is, though, is that Prince Hazard is working. We all know that he's the Chief Impact Officer at Better Up, apparently on a 7-figure salary. He's on millions there. We all know he's also working in Archewell Productions, apparently producing, we'll see it when we believe it, content for Netflix. We all know that he has that Netflix deal with Megsy, a multi-million-dollar deal. He did have in the past a Spotify podcast deal. Bear in mind, he did work for Spotify as well. Did release a episode on Spotify a couple of years back around about Christmas time. And he is also working as an author, as a writer in America, signed to Penguin Random House for, again, millions. And we know from that Spare was released, which has essentially caused this whole kerfuffle right now that we're seeing in the courts with the fight for Prince Hazard's visa records, his application, to see how he answered particular questions. So I suppose, firstly, John, for you, we've been discussing in previous videos that essentially the judge is looking at 3 scenarios here that he thinks is realistic. Either A, Hazard went on a waiver, B, he got diplomatic visa, or C, that he allegedly, potentially, in some kind of scenario, lied on the application. Now, for you, as we're talking about the diplomatic visa option here, what do you think is the likelihood that Hazard's actually on a diplomatic visa in the first place? Do you think it's likely? Do you think it's a possibility? What do you think?
I think it's possible. And as we kind of touched on in the last video, the relative speed with which he entered the United States after the Queen pulled his security when he was living in Canada might lead to a conclusion that he entered the United States on a visa and then tried to convert to a different type of visa after he was here. Um, having lived in Washington for a long time and having some exposure to the diplomatic community, if you are a representative of a foreign government and you're traveling on a diplomatic visa, it is a very, very sacrosanct status that you have. There are certain behavioral standards that you need to meet. They don't just hand out those visas for the asking to anybody who wants to come along. Even the grandson of the monarch in a country like the UK. I would be very, very surprised if he stayed on a diplomatic visa, assuming that he had one to begin with. I would be very surprised if he stayed on a diplomatic visa for any length of time after the Queen told him that she was no longer going to supply his security. And the reason for that, in addition to what I was just talking about and the degree of importance that is imparted to diplomats and diplomatic visa holders, is also that the Queen made very clear, you're either in or you're out. And when she told him, we're cutting off your security, that basically was delivering the message, you're out. And the idea that he would still have a diplomatic visa after he was out seems very, very far-fetched. So if he came into the United States from Canada on a diplomatic visa, I don't think he retained that diplomatic visa for very long. And Steph, as you just mentioned a couple moments ago, he started working, he started earning income, and that would have been even more unlikely in the event that he had a diplomatic visa. It just would not have worked out that way.
How foolish do you think Hazza would be if he does have a diplomatic visa, or did, let's say, back then, and started working whilst having said diplomatic visa? I mean, how bad, how foolish would that be in the grand scheme of things? Or would they just have turned a blind eye to it? What do you think?
Oh, no, I don't think they would have turned a blind eye to it. And in fact, I don't think it would have been the United States having a problem with it. I think it would have been the UK having a big problem with it. And it would have been, the people that deal with diplomatic visas in the UK and issue them. Again, if he's on a diplomatic visa, he's on a diplomatic visa with from under the authority that's granted to a diplomatic visa holder from the UK government. It would be the UK government giving him a diplomatic visa so that he could then come to the United States and say, hi, I'm here. I'm from the UK and I'm on diplomatic business and I have diplomatic authority, et cetera, et cetera. For him to then start to work in the United States would risk the United States being very upset with Great Britain. And I don't think Great Britain would have been interested in having that type of tension back and forth between the two governments. Prince Harry is a relatively small fish in that ecosystem of the diplomatic community, and nobody wants to rock the boat. You either do what you're supposed to do or you change to a different type of visa. If you're part of the diplomatic corps and part of the diplomatic community, you have very, very specific and rigid rules that you have to play by. And the minute that you decide you want to draw outside the lines, in the case of Prince Harry, that would have been signing contracts and as you mentioned, Steph, doing Netflix and Spotify and picking strawberries or whatever in the world else he was going to do. Then I think the UK would have said, sorry, that's it. Give us back the visa and you're on your own. You work it out with the Americans how you want to be in the United States.
Fair play. Well, with that being said, guys, stay tuned for the next video with myself and John, because we've gone through and read through the full court transcript of the Prince Harry visa fight between the Heritage Foundation and the Department of Homeland Security. And yeah, it comes up to one big major question, guys. Will the judge release Prince Harry's visa application to the public? That is now the question on everyone's minds. That's basically what we're now waiting for, guys. So stay tuned for the next video because, yes, John definitely has some thoughts on that one. With that being said, if you don't want to miss that video, and I'm sure you don't, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And till the next one, guys, laters.